All right. Kylie lays bricks for a living. To model her daily income, she writes the equation y equals 100 plus 0.5x, where x represents the number of bricks laid that day. What does the x represent in this situation? Or actually the coefficient of x. Okay, what does it represent? Sorry. Okay, look. Shh. Tell me. All right, what does the x represent? They said it in the problem. Right. The number of bricks that she lays that day is what x represents. So what is the coefficient of x? 0.5. Remember, the coefficient is the number beside the variable. And what do you think that number represents if x is the number of bricks laid per day? 50 cents per brick that she lays. Okay, she gets 50 cents per brick that she lays. Okay, now let's look at yesterday's work. Did anybody have any questions off of page 10? Okay, Layla, page 10 first. Page 10, page 10. Okay, Layla, what was your question? Okay, page 10. Anybody, page 10, number 6? Okay, number 6 is tricky. I'm pretty sure a lot of you think you have it right and you don't. Okay, I'm about to show you why you don't have it right. 1/2 an amount x, how do we write that? 1/2 x or x over 2, that's the same thing. Remember, multiplying by a fraction is the same thing as dividing by, like multiplying by 1/2 is the same thing as dividing by 2. Okay, added to 50, how do you write that? No, you're adding this to the 50. So the 50 should come first because you're adding it to the 50. Okay, it is addition, and addition is commutative. So really order doesn't matter. But like on the test, if these were in multiple choice, this is how it would be written because you're adding it to the 50. So 50 should come before it. Does that make sense? Okay, any other questions off page 10? Number 8, a number y, listen, a number y less than 50 is 82 would have been 50 minus y equals 82. Okay, because the y is less than 50, so it needs to come after the 50. Okay, any other questions? No? Okay, now turn to page 11, and we're going to do all of the evens on page 11 because they were more difficult. Number 9, we did that together yesterday. I just did. Okay. Shh. Number 18. Pay attention and we will get through this faster. Number 18. Jerry puts 5% of the amount he makes per week into a retirement account R. He is paid $11 per hour and works 40 hours per week for a certain number of weeks W. Write an equation to help him find out how much money he puts into his retirement. Okay, is there anybody that thinks that they got the equation correct? Okay, and I understand because this is a more difficult problem. So this is what I suggest. I suggest creating a real scenario. Like we know it's 11 per hour. And we know he works 40 hours, so wouldn't you multiply those, and that means he makes $440 that week? Okay, let me say that again. We know he makes 11 per hour, right? And we know in that week he works 40 hours, so wouldn't that be $440 in that week? Yes. Does everybody understand at least that much, that he makes $440 a week at $11 an hour for 40 hours? Okay, that's not a lot of money. All right, now, so let's just say he only works 1 week. That means right now he has how much money in his wallet? He only works 1 week. How much money is in his wallet? $440. He wants to take 5% of that money and put it into retirement. How do you figure out what 5% of that is? 0.05 though. 0.5 is 50%. 5% is 0.05. So look, now you know how to do it. So let's make it an equation. 440W, because we don't know how many weeks were worked, right? I just made up that he worked 1, but we don't really know that. But didn't we take that and multiply it by 0.05? And that's the amount of money that would go in the retirement account? Yeah, so that's the equation. Just whatever you make per week times 0.05. And whatever that is, once you plug in how many weeks you work, will be the amount going in your account. Okay, number 20. I don't know, I'll be checking it while we're working. Number 20. Kyle buys an item which normally sells for a certain price X. Today the item is selling for 20% or 25% off of the regular price. A sales tax of 6% is added to the equation to find the final price F. Okay, we've done several of these problems, but the ones we've done so far did not worry about sales tax. Okay, so really you should know how to set it up without the sales tax part. Does anybody remember that much? Okay. Okay, tell us how you would set it up. So it's going to be F equals final price equals, which is X. Okay, think about it. To find out, like if you're buying an item and it's discounted, aren't you going to subtract off of the original price? And how do you know how much to subtract off? You subtract off 25% of whatever the item is, right? Think about it. If you didn't write the X right there, all you're subtracting off is 25 cents. Isn't 0.25 25 cents in money? Right. So you have to put the X beside it so that when you multiply 0.25 by whatever the item costs, you're subtracting off that instead. Okay, but that is just for the cost of the item. Now we have to consider sales tax of 6%. Whenever you pay sales tax, are we subtracting from the final price or adding to it? Adding to it. You're adding to it. Well, you're adding 6%. How do you write 6%? And then it's at the end? No, because look, all that's adding is 6 cents. How do you represent 6% of the price? You do 6% of whatever you're paying for the item, which we already established was that. Let's make this a real scenario. I'm going to write up in this box. Let's say this is a pair of shoes. They're $100. Okay? They're 25% off. So, to figure out what 25% of 100 is, when you multiply 0.25 by the 100? Shh, be quiet, hit it. Okay? So, let me say that again because people are talking over me and it makes it hard for people that want to learn to pay attention. The shoes are $100. So, if you walk in there, you're like, okay, $100. 25% off. So, I'm going to calculate 0.25 times 100, and that is $25, right? But that doesn't mean you're paying $25 for the shoes. That means you're taking 25 off of the 100, making the cost of the shoes $75. But that's without the tax, right? Tax is adding on 6% of the $75 that you're paying, which is, and didn't we get the 75 when we did this? So you have to do 6% of that again. Does that make sense? Kind of. All right, number 22. Abby is a waitress at a local restaurant. She makes an hourly wage of $3.50 plus she receives tips. She makes an hourly wage of $3.50 plus she receives tips. On Monday, she works 6 hours and receives tip money T. Write an equation showing what Abby makes on Monday. So y equals what? You can times 6, because she's working for 6 hours at that per hour, plus whatever she makes in tips. Now, some of you may have gone ahead and simplified this to 21 plus t, and that's okay because 350 times 6 is 21. Okay? All right, now let's go to the new material. Okay. Solving inequalities is almost like solving equations. Okay, there are a few rule differences, and of course, instead of an equal sign, you have an inequality symbol. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to solve it. And what do I mean by that? Actually, I'll just answer all the questions. Okay. It means get r by itself. So I have to divide by 8 to cancel it, and I divide this side by 8. So I'm left with r is greater than or equal to negative 3. Once you get your number, you circle it on the number line. Okay, now, what this means is, see how we have an r up in the problem? This means that you could plug in any number that is greater than negative 3 or equal to negative 3, and it would make this a true statement. So let's try. We're not there. We're not there. Okay? 8 times r is greater than or equal to negative 24. I'm going to try some of these solutions. R is greater than or equal to negative 3. Well, first I'll try negative 3 and see if it works. What does that become? And is negative 24 greater than or equal to negative 24? Yes, they're equal. So see how when I plugged in negative 3, it made a true statement? Now let me plug in a number greater than negative 3, like negative 2. If I plug in negative 2, the left side becomes negative 16. Is negative 16 greater than or equal to negative 24? Yes, they're negative. So remember, the smaller, the better. Right. Now let me plug in a number that is not greater than or equal to negative 3. So a number like negative 4. 8 times negative 4 would be a negative 32. Is negative 32 greater than or equal to negative 24? No. That's further from 0, so it's not greater. So do you see how the only numbers that make this a true statement are numbers that are greater than or equal to negative 3? If you plug in any numbers in the r place that are greater than or equal to negative 3, they will make true statements. If they are not greater than or equal to negative 3, they will make a false statement. So what we're going to do on the number line is we're going to shade all the answers that could be plugged in and make a true statement. Negative 3 worked, right? So we're going to shade it. Can I teach, please? But instead of, so look, everything greater than negative 3 now. So instead of going through and doing this on all of them, yes, we're just going to make an arrow. Okay, because would you really want to go across the entire number line forever, drawing a closed circle on every number? No. Also, the reason that doesn't work is because think about it. If you just draw a circle on all the whole numbers, you're leaving out like negative 1.5. And if you plug in negative 1.5 and multiply by 8, you're going to have a number greater than or equal to negative 24. So by drawing the arrow, you're including every single number, decimal and whole, that is greater than or equal to negative 3. So what this pink line represents is all of the solutions to this inequality. Now, we're also going to learn how to rewrite this in interval notation form. Okay, this is new. You've never seen this before. But you will need this in the future, so we're going to start learning it now, because I think on the next test you're going to have to do it like this. The furthest left that my shading goes is to negative 3, right? The furthest right my shading goes is, but technically the number line doesn't stop. It just had to because we don't have a massive paper. How far could I go right? Infinity. Okay, be quiet. You put a parenthesis on infinity. Since negative 3 is a solution, because it would actually work when plugged in and made a true statement, you put a bracket. We're going to do a lot of these. You'll start to get it as we do them. So let's try number 3. Because negative 3 was actually one of the solutions. So this bracket means that negative 3 is included in the solution set. And the solutions go from negative 3 to infinity. This is a bracket, that's a parenthesis. Okay, you always put this on parentheses. On infinities. Number 3, k minus 3 is less than or equal to 3. To solve this for k, to get k by itself, what do we do? Add 3. Okay, because negative 3 plus 3 is 0, so it cancels out. You don't need to write 0 over here. But whatever you do to one side, you do to the other side, and we end up with k is less than or equal to 6. What that means is every single number in the world that is less than 6 or exactly 6 will work in this inequality. It will make a true statement. Like, let's try 6. 6 minus 3 is 3. And is 3 less than or equal to 3? Yes, it's equal to 3. Let's try a number less than 6, like 5. 5 minus 3 is 2. Is 2 less than or equal to 3? Yes, any number that is exactly 6 or less than 6 will make a true statement. If you pick a number that is not less than or equal to 6, like 7, 8, 9, and so on, it would not make a true statement. It would make a false statement. Like 7 minus 3 is 4, and 4 is not less than or equal to 3. Now, you're going to represent all the solutions on the number line by circling the 6. Since 6 is a solution, you color in on it, you shade in on it, showing that it's a solution. And then the rest of the solutions are which way? To the left, numbers less than 6, like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and so on for infinity. Now, to write this in interval notation, how far left do my solutions go? But since it's left infinity, it's negative infinity. Left is negative, just like on the x and y axis on a graph. To the left is negative numbers, right? And then to the right, we would go all the way to 6. Anytime it's anytime it's infinity, you put a parenthesis. If it's a number, you have to decide. If the number is included in the solution, which this one is, you put a bracket. If it's not included, you would put parentheses, but we haven't got to one like that yet. All right, number 5. V plus 10 is greater than or equal to 17. To solve for V, what do I do first? Right? V is greater than or equal to 7. Because think about it, if you just say V equals 7, that's one solution to this problem, right? And there's a lot more numbers that you could plug in besides 7 that would end up being greater than or equal to 17 when you add 10 to it. Yes. Let me say it again. You've got to understand why there are more solutions than just one. Aren't there lots of numbers that when added 10 will be greater than or equal to 17? Yeah, pretty much 7 and up, if you add 10 to it, it's going to be greater than or equal to 17. So, you represent that by drawing a circle on 7. Since 7 actually works in the inequality, you do a closed circle. The easiest way to know whether it's closed is if there's an equal to bar, it's a closed circle. Then it's everything greater than 7, which would be which numbers? Which numbers are greater than 7? 8, 9, 10, 11, right? So you draw your arrow this way forever. Okay, now let's write it in interval notation. How far left does the shading go? 7 is the furthest left. What's the furthest right? Infinity. You always put a parenthesis on infinity. You put a bracket on 7, but only, not because it's a number, because it's included in the solutions. It actually works. Okay, now let's try one more, one that's not an equal to. P minus 9 is less than negative 13. So to solve for P, what do? Add the 9. And you end up with P is less than what? Negative 4. So the solutions are all numbers less than negative 4 but not equal to negative 4. So when you circle it this time, it's open because negative 4 is not one of the solutions. Just the numbers less than negative 4, which would be negative 5, negative 6, negative 7, and so on. Does that make sense? Let me show you why negative 4 wouldn't work. Look up at the board real quick. If you do negative 4 minus 9, what does that equal? And is negative 13 less than negative 13? No, it's equal. So see how it doesn't make a true statement? Okay, now let's write this in interval notation. How far left does the shading go? Negative infinity is how far left it goes. How far right does it go? Negative 4. However, negative 4 was not included this time, so you don't put a bracket, you put a parenthesis. We will